Hi, this is Lou Covey, Editorial Director of New Tech Press, and I'm here with a special interview that I had with Peter Groenevelt of Synopsys. Patrick did a tutorial on the efficiency of electric vehicles at the 2015 Design Automation Conference in San Francisco this week, and I decided to sit down with him and see if I can get him to compress what he said down into just a few minutes. It was tough, but we did it, and I think you're going to be very interested in what he has to say about whether you should get an electric vehicle. Let's take it away with Patrick.
But he makes it out to be. Let's talk first from an environmental level.
Yeah.
What was it that you said about electric vehicles regarding the efficiency as it relates to heat?
So, this first, if we talk about the environment for the battery, so a battery likes to be in the same temperature as we are now. Then it operates optimally. It basically doesn't work if it gets any cooler than 10 degrees centigrade, which is about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So basically means you need to heat the thing if it gets below this temperature. And heating costs energy, so that makes the thing quite a bit less efficient. So we see that with electrical vehicles, if you drive them around in a freezing climate, their efficiency goes down by 30, 40, sometimes way factor 2 almost. Means that your environmental emissions increase by a factor 2. Means that your range also reduces by a factor 2, which is really quite significant for electrical vehicles. It's much more significant than with conventional internal combustion engine, because even though internal combustion engines by themselves are really inefficient, I mean more than 80% of the energy just gets wasted, they are very, very, very good at keeping you warm and comfortable. Yeah, so they that 80% rest heat you use to heat the cabin, and it's for free. And they warm up quickly in winter, relatively quickly in winter, and then that works very well. On the other end of the spectrum, if it gets really hot, that's really, really detrimental for the lifetime of your battery. So if you charge your cell phone in a heated car, or if you just leave it there, it will significantly lose capacity over time. So what the car manufacturers need to do to keep the lifespan of those batteries rated at 10 years or 8 years, so it's typically guaranteed at 10 years, at 8 years, they will need to cool the battery. So there's fairly elaborate mechanism with coolant water and air conditioning, or through chilling, to keep the battery below 30 degrees centigrade, which is about 80-85 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right, and that's just the issue of the battery, but
right.
We also have the issue of how you charge the damn thing.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is that the battery, the size of a table, holds roughly the energy of half a gallon of energy. Yeah. So effectively, when I charge my Chevy Volt from empty to full.
Well, and I think we may need to make the point that you drive an electric vehicle.
I drive an electric vehicle just for, to put my finger into how this works in practice. Every time when I charge it from empty to full, I only stick 1 gallon in it. Yeah. So every time I'm doing this action of charging it, I get 1 gallon. That's about 40 miles of driving, and then I need to charge it again. So I charge it 365 times per year. That's 365 cycles on the battery, but it's also 365 times opening the hood, taking the cable out, sticking the cable in, not tripping over the cable, then waiting for it to charge and sticking it back in the hood. So if I add up that inconvenience versus going to the gas station once a week and sticking the gas in and having that happen at a effective speed of many, many times the speed of sound versus normally electric charging, if you calculate it, it will roughly charge at 10 miles per hour. Those are minor inconvenience. All of those, by the way, you can really work around if you use your electric vehicle for day-to-day commuting. Yeah, so if you're on a regular schedule, you go to work, you charge it overnight, or you charge it during work, and you drive back home, life is relatively comfortable, and you really hit those cars on the sweet spot. electrical vehicles are definitely not made, even though Tesla tries to build something or make the other impression, for long distance driving, going to Disneyland with your family. Better leave them at home or rent a car.
Well, there's another issue you brought up too, as far as the generation of electrical power to charge the cars, and that when you're in an area where you've got a lot of alternative energy that are providing the power, like say Texas or California, it kind of makes sense. But when you're in places like Utah or Minnesota or Pennsylvania, where
so I did the miles on that. It's actually relatively simple. So a car drives a certain amount of miles per kilowatt hour, just like your car drives a certain amount of miles per gallon, mpg, and so we have miles per kilowatt hour. And for electrical cars, that's roughly 3 miles for every kilowatt hour you put in. Well, every kilowatt hour you pull out of the plug at your home causes a certain amount of emission, because that kilowatt hour is either generated by coal, natural gas, nuclear, or maybe, and that's only unfortunately only for a relatively small percentage, from alternative energy sources. If you do them, and that mix changes over the world. In California here, we are relatively clean. We're talking about half a pound of CO2 per kilowatt hour emissions. When we're going to Utah, where most of the energy is generated by coal, we're talking about 2.1 pounds per kilowatt hour. So we're having a factor 4 more emissions per mile that you drive. And then if you compare that electric car with a gasoline powered car of about the same size and about the same class, then you'll see that if I drive my Chevy Volt here in California versus a comparable, let's say, let's pick even the most efficient car that you can get, Toyota Prius, a gasoline powered car, I'm about 2x better here CO2 wise in California. If I would do the same thing in Utah, I'm worse off. I'm exhausting more emissions by driving electric than by driving on gasoline.